Welcome to the Sheffield Sunday As Bill Sees It meeting. This is a main share meeting, and today is with great pleasure and much gratitude that we welcome Arisa B., who's coming to share for about 40 minutes, after which we'll open for general sharing or if you'd like to ask a question. Thank you, Arisa. It's wonderful to have you here, and the floor is yours.
Thanks so much, Andy. Good morning, everybody. My name is Arisa, and I'm most definitely an alcoholic. The date of my last drink was October the 13th of 1993, and for that, I am truly, truly grateful. And it's great to be back with you guys. I haven't been doing a whole lot of Zooms. I've had a whole lot of, well, frankly, surgeries in the last couple of years. So I loved this reading. I loved As Bill Sees It. It was the third book I bought in Alcoholics Anonymous, and it's like the cliff notes to all the stuff you kind of need to know. And as I was listening to it being read again this morning, all I kept thinking about really was our seventh tradition, how we're self-supporting through our own contributions. And I had no idea how to be self-supporting through my own contributions. I thought at first we were just talking about finances, but really, honestly, being self-supporting through my own contributions means being willing to participate. That right of participation that we talk about in the concepts, and it starts so early on when I was taught the third step. We're talking about we all of the time. And I thought what the third step was all about was, I don't get any say in my life anymore, which is true. It's true. When I offer myself to God, when we pass that basket around the room, in church, they would call that an offering, and you put your money in the basket. It's not my money anymore. But I do get to go to the group conscience. And I get to participate and talk about how that money is going to be used if I want to. I don't have to participate, but that right of participation is also a responsibility of participation. That I got to find that part of my issues with people was that I expected them to know how to treat me without wanting to ever actually help them understand what was going on inside of me. You see, I think you think like me, but one of my favorite little reminders for myself is one of my favorite places to go as a child. I didn't get to go very often, but when I did, was Baskin Robbins. They have 31 flavors of ice cream. Why do they have 31 flavors of ice cream? And why the heck do they have some of those flavors of ice cream? I mean, is it just to be weird? No, it's because actually they sell them all. Somebody is out there ordering, marshmallow fluff with coconut, or, black raspberry with walnut, or pistachio with, cream cheese. I don't know, but somebody's ordering them. They're making money because you see, believe it or not, I don't like chocolate. So I'm not the girl buying the chocolate ice cream. And I wanted the Neapolitan when we went to the grocery store because at least I could have the strawberry and I didn't have to have the others because my siblings all wanted the chocolate. I didn't think like them. But it took me coming to Alcoholics Anonymous to understand that we actually aren't the same. That I thought I was terminally unique, but actually all I am is unique. That each of us is an individual, and that I don't have a shared history with anybody, not even the people I grew up with. Every single one of us have different reference points. And that mutual trust and respect that I learned to build by starting off just being self-supporting through my own contributions, being willing to talk about things, being willing to go to the business meeting, not getting mad at you when you don't necessarily agree with me. I understood that other people could be right. I just never thought they were right today. Maybe tomorrow they'll be right. But right, if my arrangements would only stay, put, the world and its people would clearly be happier. My sponsors taught me that relationships and even my relationship in Alcoholics Anonymous, my journey in Alcoholics Anonymous it has this evolution: have to, need to, want to, love to. I came to AA because I really had to. I had to do something, and I didn't know what yet. I stayed because I realized I really needed to. When I started working the steps, I really started wanting to live this life. And when I did that long enough, I fell in love with it. I love this life. I love the fact that I don't know who you are, and I get to find out more about you. An informed group conscience. I need to know what you're thinking, and I have a responsibility to participate so you also know what I am thinking. Because that's the only way we get anywhere close to what God is actually asking of us. I like to use the example. I've got a bunch of really old trees, 100+ year trees. And if I've got one in particular, it's been hit by lightning, right? And it's got a weird branch. It's got some very interesting things about it. I'm an artist, by the way, so I look at things interestingly. And I was observing one day that if I drew a triangle around that tree, and I asked Andy to stand on one corner and somebody else, Dan maybe, to stand on another corner, and I stood on the third corner, and we all took a photograph, it would look like 3 different trees. If you're standing on the side where the lightning hit it, it looks like that tree's dying. But actually, to understand the tree, I don't need just 3 photographs. I need to be able to see it from above. I need to be able to see the root structure. I need to actually be able to feel the sap running through it. And how do you do that? How do you get that much, understanding of a situation? I'm a big believer that an open mind is one of the most important things we can ever get. And it's not what I think I know that, the real key is understanding how much I cannot possibly know. Because it's what I think I know that turns out later not to be true, that has gotten me in the worst trouble of my life. I think I know what Dell likes, and so therefore I make a decision, and later he's looking at me going, how rude are you? And I'm sitting there going, wait, what? I mean, I'm sure nobody but me has ever had that that experience where you're sitting there going, but, and you are flabbergasted because your intentions were so good. My husband and I mean, we have a great relationship. The only reason we're still married, though, is not because he's never stepped on my toes. It's because I know he has never stepped on my toes on purpose. Every time he has trampled me, the poor man actually thinks he's taking me into consideration. He's just got it ass backwards. Right? And when I can start assuming love instead of malice, now we're beginning, to find true kinship. We grow in understanding and effectiveness. It's how much I don't know about you that I learned to cross the courtroom and stop being the lawyer for the prosecution and start being the lawyer for the defense. That doesn't mean that everything he's done is okay. It means I have to learn to say ouch when he steps on my toe, because if I don't, I am teaching him that whatever it is he's doing is fine by me. That's that right of participation and that responsibility of participation, that I want you to figure it all out, frankly, because I'm selfish and self-centered and I don't want to have to do the work. If you would figure out how I tick, then I don't need to work so hard. I'm uncomfortable. I mean, I remember we would be dating, and I'm sure nobody's ever done this. You get asked out there, what would you like to do? Oh, whatever you want. That's not really true. That's not really true. I don't want to go hiking. My husband and my son are hiking this morning, which is why I can be here with you guys this morning, because this, the girl with the broken back does not hike. Okay. And today I can say that, but early on, I would agree to do all kinds of things that, quite frankly, I wanted to spend time with him. I didn't want to do the activity, but I didn't know how to find my voice. And I didn't understand that, I like to think about it as inside of me, there's kind of the steamroller and there's the doormat, right? And I would oscillate between the two. Either you get to do whatever you want, or you need to be listening to me and it's got to be my way. And I didn't know that what really needed to happen was when I felt like that steamroller, it's because I was not fully participating. I wasn't giving you the opportunity to have an informed group conscience. Not just a group conscience, not just, oh, I vote this way and you vote that way, but we are actually listening to each other. And we're trying to find out what's best for everyone. That's why everyone's voice is so important. That I didn't realize I was arm wrestling with the whole world. I arm wrestled with my sisters for a long time because I wanted them to see how much I'm trying to love them. And the truth is they've got their own problems. They don't want me in their lives. And I went through extremes to try and keep fixing relationships when really what I needed to pay attention to is that I'm just someone who is very hard for them to be around. You know, there's a lot of alcoholism in my family. There's a lot of mental illness in my family. And I don't want to take their inventory, but there's a lot of jealousy and just, you know, they look at the outside of my life and it's easy to look at the outside of my life and think, oh, she doesn't have any problems because they don't know what's happening inside of me. Because they don't know about all the surgeries, because they don't know about all of the other stuff that's happened. They don't know, nor do they need to. It's not my job to force someone into loving me today. It's my job to love them on their terms. It says we're supposed to have the best possible relationship with every person. And I had to get to a place where I was willing to really honestly ask myself, what is the best possible relationship? And, you know, right now my dad is, I don't know where my dad is. Just like when my mom died, my sisters moved him and I don't know where he is. And I get to accept that. When I asked, you know, I was given, you can send him cards at my sister's address. That's what I know about where my father is. And I get to accept that. See, the interesting thing, like, should it be that way? No, but it is that way. So therefore, that's the way it's supposed to be today. That's what radical acceptance is. It's not that what you did is something that I can give the, you know, thumbs up to. It's that when I accept what you did, I hear God better so I can respond in kindness, in love. That's what acceptance is. Because tragedy doesn't have to shake my faith if I let it shape it. Am I letting those heartbreaks of my life lead my heart to be more open? See, I was so afraid of loving people because I didn't want to get hurt, because I'd been so hurt. But the truth is, I'd rather have a broken heart than a closed one. You know, I don't want to belong to my wounds today. I don't. I want to belong to love. I want to have a fellowship around me of people who are trying to walk in that kind of profound peace and love. You know, God is with me when the crap is hitting the fan. You know, I believe God's rooting for us when I need to decide things. I don't think God's up there going, you know, this is the right way. We talk about the beam, and so often we think of that beam like a balance beam. I promise you, Bill Wilson had probably, you know, wasn't thinking about gymnastics when he was talking about the beam. He was talking about a homing beacon that brings you into safe harbor, that those pilots would tune into when they couldn't see where they were going. That's what God is to me. You know, come this way. Love is this way. Come this way. And, you know, like tuning the static out of the old radio so that you hear the beautiful music of life. Can I do that today? You know, so God is at the center of my life. It's not like if you do this, you got it wrong. It says just to the extent that I do as I think God would have me and humbly rely on him, does he enable me to match calamity with serenity. Serenity does not mean that everything is great in my life. It means that the rumble strips are not going to make me throw up necessarily. Or if I do, I can still keep going. I was driving home last night. I was out later than usual, and there were these I don't know, 6 or 10 motorcycles. They must have been going 110 miles an hour, and they were just going through the traffic, and it was dark, and I don't like driving at night. I don't do it very often. And my first thought was, ugh. My next thought was, God bless them. I hope they get there safely. Because I've been that kind of a person, right? And I remember driving like a bat out of hell one day because my kid was having trouble breathing, and I'm trying to go to the hospital. Now, I don't think those, guys on the motorcycles were going to the hospital, but I know that if you're driving like that, there's something driving you. There's something driving you. That when people are acting in that kind of a way, in any kind of a selfish and self-centered way, that is their 100% in that moment. Can I believe that? That if you had more to give in this moment, you would give it. Because I never woke up, wanting to take a course of action to ruin somebody's day. It's just that I was so hurt. My claws were out all the time. I didn't know how, breathing was like razor blades inside of me. I'm not one of these people that believes God will never give you more than you can handle. Because I don't believe God's up there saying, get Debbie, get Dell. I don't believe in that God. I can't believe in that God. I don't believe that everything happens for a reason. I believe in a God of lemonade. I believe that whatever life gives me, there is enough God if I choose to add that in to make all the lemons sweet. That whatever doesn't kill us can make us happier if we let it. That spiritual alchemy that you guys taught me is what has sustained me for over 30 years. Believing the absolute temper tantrum. Because I am a temper tantrum girl. If I don't wanna, I'm not gonna. And today it tells me to insist on enjoying my life. And that means I have to stop assuming malice about you. I have to stop thinking that I don't deserve the bad things in life. Why not me? Instead of why me, why not me? I've got 12 steps, 12 traditions, and 12 concepts. I've got a God that's bigger than anything I could have ever imagined. And the conditions of my life do not decide who I am or how I walk through this world. I don't have to be able to walk without pain. I have to be able to know that the pain is not who I am. It's not that there are victims and volunteers. It's that there are victims and there are people who've been victimized. That is something that happened. It is not who I am. I get to call the spiritual woman to chair the meeting each and every day. I don't need to dominate you, and I don't need to lay down and let you dominate me. As God's people, we walk on our feet. We don't bow or scrape before anyone. That I get to be right-sized. That's what real humility is. Right-sized, shoulder to shoulder. I don't need to climb up on some pedestal. I don't have all the answers. I don't need to answer every phone call whenever it comes in because God is bigger than that. I am so grateful I got sober at a time when everybody's phone hung on a wall. And you had to be there to answer the phone. Because you couldn't expect somebody to solve your problems for you. You had to learn to trust and rely on God, on something bigger than people. Yes, you make the phone calls or you go to the meeting, but the truth is, you had a lot of time where it was just you and God. And I'm still a big believer in that. I don't want you depending on me because I'm going to fail you. It's not possible. It's just not. I don't know what's best for you. I told you, I don't know what's best for me. I did a third step. It's not my life anymore. Most spiritual term I ever learned, whatever. My job is to be happy, joyous, and free no matter what life brings, under any circumstances, right? When we are disappointed in each other, I think that's when we remember God the least. I've forgotten what it really looks like to be human, what it feels like to have those days where it feels like I'm breathing razor blades. when that really is my 100%? How can I be disappointed in you if I remember those days of my life? That's how I get to compassion with my siblings and my father. That doesn't mean that, I'm going to sit there and go, why don't you hit me there too? You already got this side. So, turning the other cheek does not mean, please hit me again. It means that's your business. When I forgive you, I walk free because you don't owe the debt to me. That's between you and your God. What's between you and me is what I decide to put between you and me. And hopefully that will be love today. I need to be wearing those rose-colored glasses. I need to make sure that there's plenty of fluid in the windshield wiper stuff so that, I'm not looking through crap on the windshield. That's what this program is all about. The God who is constantly there saying, let me help you clean the windshield. Let me help you see through the lens of love. Right? I think sometimes God must wonder, what all of this measuring is about. Why are we competing with everyone? It's not like Derek and I have something that we need to arm wrestle over. Why would I think, that's not the way the world works. I think God must be perplexed by us constantly raising the bar and then raising the bar again. Why? So we can trip and fall. When my sponsors have raised the bar, the only reason to ever raise the bar is because I believe there's more in you and to help you to happiness and joy and love. That I believe you have the ability to forgive. I believe you have the ability to love. I didn't think I did. I didn't think I could ever get rid of the resentments that I had. I didn't think I could ever be someone who didn't feel like a victim. I didn't think I could ever be someone who could let the pain go below the surface. It's not to say it didn't happen, but that because it did, I can have an even more open heart. I can see even more kindness and I can have even more compassion. That's a radical way of living. I think God gets sad right with us. I think that when I was a little girl and I was praying that God would save me from my father or whatever other horrible thing was going on, and I thought God hadn't, as a grown-up, I realized he did. Because down deep inside of me, I always knew this isn't right. I knew that didn't speak of love. If it doesn't speak of love, it doesn't speak of God. You see, that's my inner compass. That's what I want to follow. That inner compass that points towards true love. That's my north. True love. True love. That's it. Well, the one I've studied a lot of religions. The one thing they all agree on is God is love. In math, is an equal sign. So God and love, same difference. So whatever your higher power is, Bill's funny. He goes, get a God, any God. And then he starts telling you about what God has to be. These qualities of God. How it's personified or not is a whole nother deal. But, my job is to redouble my belief in God's love. And that keeps me kind. It keeps me open. And when God's tenderness reaches me, then peace is the byproduct. And I'm able to give that to you. This reading also really made me think about Bill's leadership essay. That we do have leaders in Alcoholics Anonymous. We need leaders in Alcoholics Anonymous. I'm glad there were leaders in Alcoholics Anonymous when I walked in the door. We don't have people in positions of, unjustified authority, right? Like unqualified, not unjustified. Unqualified, Paolo would have corrected me. Unqualified authority, right? I had lots of people in positions of unqualified authority in my life. I listened to people that were not kind, that were not loving. And I needed to learn to ask myself, why am I listening to them? Why are they deciding what my life should look like? Why are they deciding, what clothes I should wear or not? Why are they deciding anything about my life? Who gave them a seat in the group conscience? Do they belong? I'm all for unity. Don't get me wrong. I'm all for the right of participation, but we need to understand who's in the group conscience. And if I give Derek a vote in my group conscience about, the way this house should look, Derek lives in Atlanta. He doesn't live in Boston, and he doesn't need to be in my house. And so why would I give him a vote? He doesn't need one. I don't need to be living my life hoping for somebody else's approval. It's about in here, and finally realizing that the bondage of self, I tied my own hands. I did that. I am the worst abuser of my entire life. I am the girl who likes to hit instant replay on this bad stuff that the world did to me, and I keep myself in bondage. Change the channel. Let's talk about the good stuff. That is not the topic. I mean, when I was getting sober in Texas, we had a bell, and if you got off topic, the leader would either say something or, man, they would ring the bell. I mean, we're talking about God, or we're talking about the third step, and we're not talking about cats. I mean, who cares about the flat tire? We're talking about solution here. And that's how the spiritual woman has to chair the meeting. Am I willing to do that? And when you see, because God will only do for me what I cannot do for myself, not the things that I can do. Am I willing to show up fully? Am I willing to actually be in alignment and do these very, very simple things? See, I don't know about you, but I am the person who thinks because she read the stuff, especially like upon awakening, right? If I read it, that's good enough. If you're one of those people, don't take this the wrong way, but I had to find out that reading upon awakening is not the same thing as doing upon awakening. Right? The first thing that happened to me this morning was I got divorced. I got on my knees, and I thanked God for divorcing me from self-pity, dishonesty, resentment, and fear. Because if I don't do that, I don't have a hope of being married to David. That's the deal. That I need to thank God for making me the best wife, mother, daughter, sister, sponsor, sponsee that I can possibly be today. That's the deal. How can I best serve thee? Thy will, not mine, be done. And I don't know about you, but if I am not really being honest and building that relationship with God, suddenly my will starts looking like God's will to me. It's a funny thing how quickly that slips in. It should be this way. It shouldn't be that way. I shouldn't have to deal with this. Really? Why? It's like hot potato. If I shouldn't, then who am I going to give it to? Dan? Bobby? Who should get it? Who deserves this? Who deserves to have all this crap I've gotten? I'm going to give it to my kid? Please. No. The truth is that everybody gets crap. The question is, are you going to learn what this spiritual alchemy is really about? Am I willing to say, okay, God, if it's on my plate, see, life is too much for this alcoholic to handle. Breathing for 24 hours is too much for this alcoholic to handle. I need something to get me through it. And it's either going to be a whole lot of God or a whole lot of booze. That's my reality. I don't have the strength to do it. Lack of power is still my dilemma. And I resent you sometimes because I think it's your fault that I have to deal with something. And I want to rest satisfaction because I don't want to have to deal with something, as opposed to opening my heart and saying, okay, God, I need more strength. The same way I used to open a bottle to get liquid courage. I don't want to have to. Am I willing? Am I willing to go to any lengths? Even the ones I don't agree with, especially the ones I don't agree with. If you're one of those people who believes that everything happens for a reason, I can agree with you to this extent. You know those crumbs that are on the table? They're there because I wasn't willing to sweep them up. That's how I see it. You know, what am I willing to do? Am I willing to fully participate in my life? Am I willing to squeeze the oranges and put the sugar in? I've worked with fire. I work with smoke. You can see one of my paintings behind me. And years ago, there was a fire in my art studio just before my thesis show. And all my smoke paintings burned. All of them burned. Right? They're gone. And for 2 years, I've been building this show. And all of a sudden, everything is wiped away. And there were 5 of us who were supposed to graduate who were in this fire. And it is a tragedy. It was a tragedy. But for a girl who works with fire, and I got to walk in that room and see what was, you could see, it's like God whispering in my ear going, that was your idea of smoke painting? Let me show you mine. You could see how the fire rushed through the room and up the walls, and the light fixtures had dripped down, and the clock looked like it was right out of a Dali painting. And I saw how beautiful these ginormous marks were from the flames. And my work grew exponentially. Probably would have taken me 15 years to get there. Probably. And instead of being traumatized, I was inspired. Inspired to spirit is with spirit within, right? It's not my problem. It's my problem with my problem. It's not another growth opportunity, because that sounds like punishment. That sounds like God sending me another lesson. I mean, when did God become a schoolmarm? You know, I don't think that God's up here going, you know, get her and she needs to learn that and whatever. But life, one of the most misquoted things in Alcoholics Anonymous is we get up to the podium and we say, I'm going to tell you what it was like, what happened, and what it's like now. That's from how it works. This is what we were like, what happened, and what we are like now. Because life still happens, but I don't react the same way because I have that God inside of me. I have learned to have the spiritual temper tantrum that when I got confronted with happy, joyous, and free. God, I remember hearing that in the beginning. I've never met a drunk who doesn't want to be happy, joyous, and free. Anybody here not want to be happy, joyous, and free? Come on. But how many people really know where that is in the big book? And when I found that what it really says is it's not that of course I want to be happy, joyous, and free. I mean, that's still selfish and self-centered, isn't it? I mean, that gives me the right to steamroll everyone, doesn't it? Because, you know, I gotta take care of myself. That's how, you know, how can I best serve God, though? That's a little bit different. You know, what it really says is we are sure. This is the attitude adjustment the old timers used to talk about. The other meaning of AA, attitude adjustment. When, you know, we are sure God wants us happy, joyous, and free. My life changed dramatically when I was willing to be sure that God wants me happy, joyous, and free. That is the attitude I must take. That is what I need to be watching for all through the day, and come back and come back and come back. That's what the 10th step is at its core. It's not clean up on aisle 7. It's, are you sure? How sure were you today that God wants you happy, joyous, and free? Because if that's not your God, you're going to walk around like a victim waiting for the world to hurt you. There it is again. There it is again. There it is again. Instead of, God bless them, they're having a bad day. And it has nothing to do with me. Nothing at all to do with me. I get to be here. My attitude is the one that needs to be adjusted. My attitude is the one that decides what my day is going to be like. Belief is not something that happens to you. It's a choice. This is what I choose to believe in. And whenever I am disturbed, the problem is within me. Wrong God, come back. Wrong God, come back. Wrong God, come back. This is what I choose to believe. I'm going to realign and realign and realign and realign. And, you know, I talk to people all the time. That's all I got for you. That's the whole message of Alcoholics Anonymous, guys. And the best way to do that is go help somebody else. Go help somebody else. If you're miserable, if you can't get your head out of your butt, if you don't have, I call it a cephaloectomy. If you need a cephaloectomy, you get your head out of your ass, go help somebody else. It works when everything else fails, right? I have the experience of every time life has hit me like a Mack truck, there's this parade of people who are saying, would you help me? And when there hasn't been, I'm there seeking them out. When I moved to New York and I didn't know a soul, and it was the days when long distance was really expensive, and my sponsor never called back, right? I mean, I don't know what happened to her. This was many years ago. And I ended up at a meeting where I was the only woman there, and I was the person with the most sobriety, and so I was the one doing the most work. I had something that they didn't have, and so when anybody anywhere reaches out for help, I want the hand of AA always to be there, and for that, I am responsible. In Al-Anon, they say, and let it begin with me. How about that one? Let it begin with me. Am I waiting for you to do it first? Oh, yeah. Right. That's the kind of selfish I am. I want you to do first, but that circle isn't going to work unless I am giving everything away. And that doesn't mean, I want to be really clear, how can I best serve thee? Means I also need to sleep and turn off my phone at night. It also means I need to eat. Well, I used to give away my lunch on the subway, and then I would be starving. And I'm not serving God in the best way that way. It took me a while to just simply grow up in the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous, to understand that just because you asked for my lunch doesn't mean you deserve it more than I do. It doesn't. I'm the idiot. I'm the idiot that you have to sit through the announcement on the plane for, okay? Should the cabin lose pressure, the oxygen mask will fall. Please put yours on first before helping everybody else around you, because I'm the girl who thinks it's selfish to put hers on first, and I'm going to run around and help everybody else, and then I'm dead. And I help them that much, but instead I've been able to help for a lifetime. I've been able to help for over 30 years. So many people. Why? Because you guys have taught me, first you put your gas mask on. You make sure you're working the steps. You're in the center of the traditions and the concepts. You're making sure that, our book says in working with others, don't give them money or time or food or whatever, that should go to your family or your creditors. Huh? What a concept. What a concept. That if my husband or my kids hated Alcoholics Anonymous, I wouldn't be able to give you as much. I'd probably leave. That's why so many people with children don't hang around, because they don't know how to say no. We do not, this idea that we never say no to an AA request is crap. A reasonable AA request. A reasonable AA request. And you don't get to tell me what's reasonable in my life, because you don't have the same conditions as I do. Remember, if you really want to know, people say the set aside prayer, and then they say, help me see the truth, which completely just negated it. I can't see the truth. Help me to know that how much I don't know, to stay truly open-minded, to know that there's always more information out there that I can't possibly know. That's what real humility is. I'll never be able to know what it feels like for the sap to run differently in the spring than in the fall through the middle of that tree. What I can know is how the leaves fall off and what colors they are, and I can pay attention, and I can try to have an open heart, and I can know that this really is your 100% today, just like this is really my 100% today. That we are called to love each other to the best of our ability. And our abilities are different. And so if you want, raspberry pecan with coconut on top, I don't have to say, oh, bless your heart. I can say, wow, that's really interesting. I'd like to know more about that. It's so wonderful to be with you guys. I love this program. I hope you stick around long enough to fall in love with Alcoholics Anonymous. I wish you a beautiful day. Don't make other plans. Thanks for my sobriety.